Hello, everybody, and welcome to the HerStory online summit and in-person summit in Melbourne, Australia. This is Gertrude Mache here, and we are going to start our program with a welcome to country, compliments of Marge Hepston. Here we go.
I would like to begin with a welcome to country, and I'd like to invite Auntie Joy Wanda Murphy to come and join me on the stage. Thank you, Auntie Joy. Auntie Joy Wanda Murphy is a senior Wurundjeri elder of the Kulin Nation. Born in Hillsville, Auntie Joy's family never left Wurundjeri land, and she is the great niece of William Barrack of the Wurundjeri clan. In 2002, she was awarded the Victorian Aboriginal Women's Award for being involved with Aboriginal issues for over 30 years. In 2006, Auntie Joy was made an officer of the Order of Australia for her service to the community through significant contributions in the fields of social justice, land rights, equal opportunity, art, and reconciliation. Auntie Joy has filled many important roles in community building, and thank you for your incredible journey, including having been a trustee of National Gallery of Victoria. And so therefore, Auntie Joy understands this very important role art plays in celebrating and informing culture. So thank you, Auntie Joy.
I'd like to begin by saying we meet on this beautiful, beautiful country of Wurundjeri Woi-wurrung, and never in my life did I dream I'd have the opportunity, the honour of speaking on my father's country. I'd like to acknowledge all our ancestors, elders and communities across this great nation of ours and neighbouring islands. Tonight my niece Kim has come down with me, which is great. We've kind of got a few more women with us tonight. We have our beautiful jury dancers who they'll be introducing themselves shortly. So to our men, brothers and sisters that are in the audience, I'd like to acknowledge your country and your community. To you, to each of you and your cultures, I acknowledge you and where you come from and, of course, who you are. And also, because of the way that there's been terrible degradation of our country, then we need to work together, continue to work together, and for who knows how long. We may never, ever make those changes that should be, but at least if we start somewhere, we can continue to work together to re-nurture the country, maybe to what it was, and leave another lasting legacy for those to come. My language is the Woi-wurrung language, Nulu, Wamenjika, Wurundjeri Balak, Yemen, Kondibik, and you are most welcome to the traditional lands of the Wurundjeri people. Notchka, thank you.
We're going to welcome now the jury dancers, and they are the only female dance group, the only Wurundjeri female dance group, and traditional custodians of Naarm, which is Melbourne. The jury means willy wagtail in Woi-wurrung, the language of the Wurundjeri people. The traditional custodians of Naarm, which is Melbourne, and surrounds. The willy wagtail, the spirit bird, gave us dance. And the jury dancers are created to honour the Liwi, the ancestors, the Kurapnon, the family, and the big, the country and animals. They are all related by blood through one woman, Annie Barat, William Barrack's sister. And the jury teach dancers to also sing in Woi-wurrung language, the mother tongue. So please, thank you, welcome.
Kaba Mama Manil, Nalanik Kaya, Randri Willamette, Wairani, New Godwin Woman Yap Victoria. My name is Kaya Nicholson Ward. I'm a proud Wurundjeri Dja Dja Wurrung Nula Illawarra woman and also have German and Irish ancestry as well. I just spoke in Wurrung language, my language. I acknowledge Ani Joy, my ancestors, my people. I acknowledge that we're in Turak, which actually translates to Reedy Swamp, which is where we get our necklaces. Which is pretty funny considering the area is a very rich area. I don't think it's Reedy Swamp. But yeah, normally we have my mum Mandy Nicholson speaking and singing, but today we have to use modern technology to have her voice projected. And myself and Michaela will be talking, introducing our dancers and the meanings of them. I just want to acknowledge the artworks here today and acknowledge the stories of the women who did the artworks. As an artist myself and my mum Mandy Nicholson as well, it's really amazing to see the artworks and the unique stories that Aboriginal art showcases and how symbols represent things. And just a general fact, a lot of people don't actually know, like in Australia, a lot of people think there's one Aboriginal language, one mob, I don't know, some people think that. And in our culture, we're very diverse. Here in Victoria, we don't have dot art, which is a lot of what you see today from Central Desert. We have carvings and lines and circles that represent our landscape and our country, because we couldn't do artwork from desert because that's not our country, that's not our story. We would have no connection to that. So we're all one mob, we're all one people, but we have very diverse cultures. So yeah, I just wanted to address that because a lot of people don't know that. So I want to acknowledge everyone here today, the artists. I want to acknowledge everyone. And we just did our Wamajika Nyanga, our welcome dance, and we used our gummies, as Ani Joy said, from country to represent cleansing the Mother Earth, cleansing our country, and creating a very positive and welcoming vibe, and removing any negative spirits and energy. So I just want to acknowledge everyone, and Michaela will introduce our next speaker.
Hi everyone, my name is Michaela. Our next dance is our country dance, our Big Nanga, and this honours the 6 layers of country. So we have the big foot, the below country, and this is where we get our ochre from, as you see on our face, on our bodies, that we use for ceremony. Then we have the big dui, which is the on country, and this is where we practice those ceremonies and work and play and live. Then we have the Banyabik, sort of water country, and obviously water is very important for our survival. And then we have the Murrumutbik, which is the wind country, and this is where our voice travels through the wind. The smoke from the smoking ceremonies travels through and cleanses us all. We have the Wurrubik, the sky country, And this is where we see Bunjil and Wa in their physical form. So Bunjil the eagle and Wa the crow. And then we have Thalangolpit, which is the forest country above the clouds. And this is where Bunjil and Wa live. So this dance honours those 6 layers of country. Yeah.
Warangeri waranjaya narapu 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 warangeri waranjaya narapu 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 Taranga tarangapi punjula punjula velamu 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 taranga tarangapi punjula punjula velamu 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 Guru guru pe punjuan punjuan na 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 guru guru pe punjuan punjuan na 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 Mungut pe gurunga gurunga ngulu 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 mungut pe gurunga gurunga ngulu 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 Tan bangbe jumurala jumurala murenda 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 Tan bangbe jumurala jumurala murenda 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 Tik tik yambula yambula naga 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 tik tik yambula yambula naga 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 tik tik teru nuru marmya marembe marmya marembe tik tik teru nuru marmya marembe marmya marembe
Is our live bird dance, live Bulun dance. So the lyrebird, as you guys may know, can mimic lots of different sounds, like car horns, unfortunately chainsaws, that kind of stuff. And the lyrebird actually taught us language, and the Jitty, the Willy Wagtail, our namesake, taught us how to dance. So this lyrebird dance represents the female, two males, fighting over the female, pretty much. The Woolen with the biggest and strongest, loudest voice wins over the female. So they're equal. So this represents that. But after this, we will actually head out. So we'll go, Jim. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much for opening our Women's International Festival today. Our next speaker is the Deputy Mayor of Mornington, who unfortunately cannot be with us, but she sent us a video. So we will go now to the Deputy Mayor's presentation.
Hello and welcome everyone to the 2024 HerStory Global Summit in recognition of International Women's Day, themed Inspire Inclusion and the UN's Women theme, Counter in, Invest in Women, Accelerate Progress. Before continuing, I would like to acknowledge the traditional owners of the land and pay my respects to all elders past and present. Thank you, Gertrude, for the invitation to attend to deliver a keynote address, and I feel privileged to also join the fantastic lineup of other invited guest speakers that will no doubt contribute immensely to the HerStory Global Summit over the coming days. To everyone who has joined us online and in person, welcome. I thank you for your participation to come together in acknowledgement and share in a commitment to empower a future where we stand together in recognition of the extraordinary strength, resilience, and unrealised potential that women and girls bring to the world. We can all resonate deeply with the unrealised and untapped potential of women and girls, and that is why this year's theme, to invest in women and accelerate progress, prompts us to seriously aspire to a world society that acts to recognise and affirm the indispensable role of women and girls in shaping our world, not only for today, but going into the future. Today, I stand before you with a heart full of hope and a vision of a world where every woman's voice is heard, recognised, affirmed, and celebrated for their valued participation across all settings in our society. As we come together for this summit, it is heartening to know that we are actively participating to walk the talk and do our bit to invest in women to accelerate progress, as Gertrude spearheads an initiative for an ambitious fundraising campaign for a monumental cause that invites us all to harness the power of collective action and lend our efforts to support Mama Uganda and her 44 children, and to help raise funds for school fees and university tuition with an aim to bring them to Australia for their studies. Mama Uganda holds a powerful story that embodies resilience, compassion, and the remarkable impact that one woman can have on the lives of many, and be a beacon of strength and compassion in her community. Mama Uganda is a true hero in every sense of the word, as she perseveres under the challenges of poverty to offer her children shelter, sustenance, and an invaluable gift of love and opportunity that every mother's heart desires for her family. Mama Uganda represents the countless unsung heroines around the world that prompts a call to action to support Mama Uganda and others like her as we give generously through financial contributions, mentorship programs, or simply by amplifying their stories to raise awareness. So I invite you all to support Gertrude's fundraising campaign and stand with Mama Uganda as advocates for her cause. As we amplify and share her story, we are collectively ensuring that her mission is not carried alone. Together, we can create a ripple effect of support that extends far beyond this summit, as Mama Uganda's story is not just about one woman, it's a testament to the potential that lies within every woman who is the backbone and foundation to every family, community, and nation. And it's a reminder that when we empower and invest in women, we invest in the future of our children, our society, and unleash a force that can drive phenomenal societal change. So why is it crucial to invest in women, you might ask? The answer is simple yet profound. When women are empowered, societies thrive. They are not just caretakers. Women are catalysts for creation and change. Women bring unique perspectives, resilience, and a nurturing spirit that can mend the very fabric of our global community. Empowerment is not a one-size-fits-all solution or a one-way street. Empowerment is a commitment to recognise and nurture the unique potential in every woman and her circumstance. Empowerment is about creating an environment where women's voices are not only heard, but amplified, and becomes a reciprocal journey where each woman's story weaves into the larger narrative of societal transformation. It's about recognising that when women stand up, their voices become a force for positive change that resonates far beyond the individual. UN Australia's message for International Women's Day highlights that the world faces many crises, ranging from geopolitical conflicts to soaring poverty levels and the escalating impacts of climate change. And the UN believes that these challenges can only be addressed by solutions that empower women, and that by investing in women, we can spark change and speed the transition towards a healthier, safer, and more equal world for all. But to spark the change, the UN estimates that an additional US $360 billion is needed per year to achieve gender equality. Also, that by closing gaps in care and expanding services with decent jobs could spark almost 300 million jobs by 2035. And closing gender gaps in employment could boost GDP per capita by 20%. The UN has estimated that if current trends continue, more than 342 million women and girls could be living in extreme poverty by 2030, and emphasised that we must ensure women's needs and priorities are considered, and that governments must prioritise gender-responsive financing and increase public spending on essential services and social protection. Policymakers must also value, recognise and account for the vital contribution women make to economies worldwide through paid and unpaid care work. Women spend around 3 times more time on unpaid care work than men, and if these activities were assigned a monetary value, they would account for more than 40% of GDP. This is according to the data from UN Australia. There is an undeniable truth that gender inequality and poverty are inextricably linked. For far too long, women and girls have borne the brunt of systemic discrimination, denied access to education, healthcare, and economic opportunities. This is not just a women's issue, it's a human issue that affects us all. As we stand on the precipice of the 21st century, it is disheartening to acknowledge that women and girls worldwide continue to bear the disproportionate burden of poverty. Despite advances in various sectors and world conditions, there remains yet a significant portion of the global female population that finds itself ensnared in the vicious cycle of economic hardship, social exclusion, and limited opportunities. If we look at the statistics and the research taken across many sectors, it speaks to a stark reality that women make up the majority of the world's poor. According to the World Bank, nearly 70% of the world's extremely poor people are women and girls. And according to the World Bank, as of 2021, approximately 9.2% of the world's population was living in extreme poverty, living on less than $1.90 a day. It is women who often make up a significant portion of this population. And according to the World Economic Forum's Global Gender Gap Report in 2021, the global gender wage gap remains a persistent issue, with women on average earning about 16% less than men for similar work. If we look at those alarming figures, they set the scene for the impact of other entrenched gender inequalities and barriers. such as an overall feminisation of poverty, whereby a higher percentage of women than men are found amongst the world's poorest populations. This is attributed to factors such as gender wage gaps, limited access to education, and social and cultural norms that can restrict women's economic opportunities. An increase in informal employment that lacks job security, social protection, and access to benefits. This informal employment often contributes to women's vulnerability to poverty. Persisting educational disparities that limit women's economic opportunities and which contribute to the ongoing cycle of poverty. This is in spite of the progress made in girls' access to education. Gender disparities still persist, particularly in some regions. There are also inequalities such as maternal poverty, where women-headed households, particularly those led by single mothers, often face high risks of poverty. Maternal poverty has implications not only for the women themselves, but also for the well-being of their children and future generations. There are also challenges faced by women who need to access financial services, including credit and banking, and this is especially in developing countries. Lack of financial inclusion can hinder women's ability to invest, save, and escape the cycles of poverty. And of course, another setback for women was from the impact of COVID-19 that further exacerbated existing gender inequalities and disproportionately affected women's economic well-being. Women are very overrepresented in sectors hardest hit by the economic fallout, such as retail, hospitality, and informal work. The research and the statistics point to one conclusion, and that is it is women who often face limited access to education, healthcare, and employment opportunities, contributing to a perpetuating cycle of poverty that spans the generations. Moreover, the intersectionality of factors such as race, ethnicity, and geographic location further exacerbates the challenges faced by women and girls in poverty who encounter barriers that not only restrict their economic advancement, but also impedes their ability to participate fully in civic life, access healthcare services, and enjoy the fundamental human rights that should be inherent to all. I believe it is time that we all should take the lead to empower and flip the negative narrative in research and statistics and begin to highlight the positive social and economic return on investment when women participate in society and the workforce. And we should all chant the mantra to count her in, because when we invest in women, we accelerate progress for all. Several studies and reports have highlighted the positive economic return on investment when women participate fully in society and in the workforce. While the exact figures may vary from sector to sector and country to country, the general consensus is that investing in women's empowerment and participation is not only a matter of social justice, but it is imperative to developing a smart economic strategy where society can thrive and flourish beyond its current limitations. Taking action to invest in women and accelerate progress not only empowers and affirms the rights of participation for women and girls, but also brings value add with aspirational key economic benefits, such as increased GDP. The McKinsey Global Institute estimates that advancing gender equality in the workplace could add $12 trillion to global GDP by 2025. That means that when women contribute actively to the economy, it expands the labour force and enhances overall productivity that leads to labour market efficiency. It is shown that women's empowerment leads to a more efficient labour market. By tapping into the talent pool of women and ensuring equal opportunities, businesses can benefit from a diverse range of skills and perspectives, foster innovation and creativity that then opens the doors to entrepreneurship. We know that when women are economically empowered, they are more likely to engage in entrepreneurial endeavours. Female entrepreneurs contribute significantly to job creation and economic growth. A study by the International Finance Corporation, the IFC, suggests that closing the gender gap in entrepreneurship could increase global income per capita by 3 to 5%. And that leads us to the area of consumer spending, where women play a crucial role in household spending decisions, as empowered women have greater purchasing power, leading to increased demand for goods and services. This consumer spending contributes to economic growth. Other value-add benefits of investing in women to accelerate progress also include impact on health and education, because investing in women's economic empowerment can lead to improved health and educational outcomes for families. Educated and healthy mothers tend to invest more in their children's education and their well-being, creating a positive cycle of development. Reduced poverty. When women have equal access to economic opportunities, poverty rates tend to decline. This is not only beneficial for individual families, but has broader implications for societal well-being, thereby it improves social stability. Because when women have to access economic resources, social stability positively impacts on community development and reduces the likelihood of social unrest. And the final value add is improved corporate performance. Companies with diverse leadership, including more women in decision-making roles, often outperform those with less diverse leadership. Studies have shown that gender diversity in leadership correlates with improved financial performance. In summary, the economic return on investment from empowering women and girls is multifaceted. It goes beyond mere monetary gains and extends to improved overall societal well-being. By fostering gender equality and providing equal opportunities, we not only contribute to economic growth, but also build a more sustainable and equitable future for all. In the tapestry of human existence, the narrative of women and girls in poverty is a thread that we cannot afford to ignore any longer. The statistics are sobering, revealing a world where gender inequality and economic hardship intersect, leaving a significant portion of the global population grappling with the daily challenges of survival. But as highlighted, we also have statistics that reveal a hope and a good case to empower women and girls to participate in society. So today we stand at a precipice that calls for bold action, fierce advocacy, and a shared commitment to rewrite the narrative to empower women and girls in the face of adversity. It's a call for us to step up and be the architects of change, to dismantle the barriers that have kept women and girls in poverty and in bondage to society discrimination for far too long. Why? Because the empowerment of women is not just a noble pursuit. It is an economic imperative, a social obligation, and a moral responsibility. When we uplift women out of poverty, we are not just benefiting a few. We are catalysing a ripple effect that reaches every corner of our global community. The return on this investment is not just measured in economic terms, but in the enrichment of the dynamic human experience. When we come together to lift women out of the experience of gender inequality and poverty, we are creating a pathway to progress. It is the very essence of progress. It is a commitment to a world where the shackles of inequality and poverty are replaced by the wings of opportunity and empowerment. Together, let us be catalysts for change, architects of a more inclusive future, where the brilliance of women and girls shines brightly for all to see. As we reflect on the progress we've made and the challenges that lie ahead, it becomes increasingly clear that investing in women and girls is not just a moral imperative, but a strategic necessity. It is an investment in the very fabric of our societies, a commitment to the unleashing of the full spectrum of human potential that has too often been stifled by the shackles of gender inequality and poverty. I will ask that for one moment you consider the women who, against the backdrop of adversity, have turned their trials into triumphs. Women who, armed with resilience, have reshaped their lives and their communities. Those women who shattered stereotypes and paved the way for a brighter, more inclusive future. Their stories are not just narratives. They are the blueprints for the transformative power that lies within each and every woman, and that means you too. In conclusion, let us embrace the theme of this summit with open hearts and minds. Let us also commit to investing in women and accelerating progress, because Mama Uganda and the many women like her are counting on us. Their stories are a testament to the fact that when women are empowered, humanity as a whole thrives. It's time to work together to build a world where every woman is not just seen, but celebrated, where their voices are not just heard, but valued and affirmed. The time for change is now, and each one of us plays a pivotal role in shaping the narrative of progress and empowerment. Thank you for your participation in the 2024 HerStory Global Summit, and may our collective efforts pave the way for a brighter, more equitable future for women and girls the world over. Thank you.
And thank you to Deputy Mayor of Mornington Peninsula, Antonella Seeley. Thank you so much for your message. It was wonderful to have you with us today, be it virtually. And now we are going to move on to our next speaker. The HerStory Circle is a social impact movement that has a focus on women and children globally. But we do work with our menfolk, our allies, who support us, who invest in us. And as the mayor said, the theme for 2024 is invest in women. So it gives me great pleasure to introduce a brother from another mother who is going to share his story with us today. And I'll just briefly read through his bio. Mr. Faia Isaiah Lahai is a former refugee from the Republic of Sierra Leone. He arrived in Australia in November 2006 after fleeing during the Civil War and spending 14 horrendous years in many refugee camps in Guinea, West Africa. He's the father of 5 children and married to 1 wife and a citizen of Australia. He currently resides in Victoria, in Hampton Park suburb. So it gives me great pleasure to welcome him today as he shares his story and his passion around education and the importance of education to break the cycle of poverty. Thank you, Isaiah. Yes. I might have to adjust that mic.
Thank you, Gertrude.
Just hold on, Isaiah. Let me take off the virtual background. Make sure that people see you. Hold on a second. Okay, if there's a virtual background, we can't see you, so just make sure that you are visible. Yeah, okay, you can go ahead.
Thank you, Gertrude, and thanks to the HerStory program, the empowerment of women worldwide. As I was introduced, my name is Isaiah Lahai. I'm originally from the Republic of Sierra Leone in West Africa. I believe in the empowerment of women because I have a lived experience that taught me so many times as to why it is important for women to be empowered. And because of that, I want to share with you a brief of my life as a son, a brother who grew up in a polygamous home with a father that has 7 wives, over 45 siblings, and my mother had 11 of us, and out of the 11, only 3 of us are alive. And out of the 3, I'm the only one that can properly talk and hear. And out of all this chaos, I came to the realization that education is the fundamental foundation that every human being should have, regardless of their background, social connection, or political view. I insist on education because my experience growing up in a polygamous home taught me if only my father was educated and my mother was educated, probably the increase in polygamy would have not impacted my family. However, due to illiteracy and cultural beliefs and traditional knowledge, I came to live in a family that was full of issues, family detachment, and lack of knowledge to social advancement. But that never deters me from doing what is right, especially now that my eyes were open thanks to my dad, even though he never went to school, but he endeavored for me to have basic education. And thanks to the Australian government and the people of this nation for giving a person like me another opportunity to be here. Reaching the shores of Australia, I was able to further my education, and that taught me a lesson to find the value of education in the society we live today. In my capacity as a former refugee and now citizen of Australia, I took upon myself to give back to my community in a little way possible through education, because I believe when you educate a girl child, you are not only educating that girl child, but you are educating the world. And because of that, I took upon myself in 2012, I started a basic primary school program in Sierra Leone, especially in the community in which I was born. This initiative has been going for the past 12 years, and we've been able to help young children, especially girl child, to move from primary school to high school. Some have been able to successfully go through their high school and now seeking further education. And I believe because when we educate these children, especially coming from low socioeconomic backgrounds, we are not only educating their individual families, but we are helping to enhance the development of the community as a whole. And in so doing, the HerStory program and initiative, which Gertrude and many vibrant and capable women are involved in, I believe is a platform that is sowing seeds that will outlive this generation. Therefore, it is not only meant for women. This program, I believe men should be involved into helping to harness the value that comes with education, empowerment, and social equity, especially when it comes to the girl child. I have a lot of lived experience, especially when it comes to my family. My sister, who was the reason for me to be in Australia, with all her disabilities, today as I speak, she is a strong pillar for our family. Most of the time, she is the one that will provide to see the sustainability of those that were left back home, even though she is disabled. But there is not a day she wavers from giving her best towards the sustenance of our family. That is why I believe if we invest into girls' education, we are investing into the reduction of poverty, into the reduction of disease, into the reduction of unplanned marriages and pregnancies. If we invest into girls' education, we are promoting a better society where everyone has the opportunity to strive. Because time without number, we have been proven to be correct that girls are the future of this world. Without women in our society, the society is incomplete. Statistically, we know that the world today is being dominated by women, yet women are less looked at in our society. And when you put a woman in a position of authority, it is quite convincing that they will outperform any other person that is there with them. As we heard from our keynote speaker, the deputy mayor, she outlined every bit of the qualities that are unseen in women that need to be harnessed. And this morning, on this beautiful day, as we celebrate the International Women's Day and with the HerStory, I believe we all should put our hands together to share in the knowledge, the passion, and the courage that women brings to the development of our society. Let's look at the global community today. All around the world, there is chaos everywhere. Majority of the victims are women and children. If we can give them the voice that they deserve, I believe the future will be a brighter one. Therefore, I'm encouraging our community, our politicians, our governments to really do more than what they are doing now to enhance and support the development and empowerment of women all over the world, because a better society can only strive when there are good families with strong foundation that provide for the beauty and healthiness of that society. This day, we are doing the little we can do to help towards the empowerment of women. My question to you now is, what are you doing? What are you bringing towards this great initiative to enhance the life of women, especially those in low socioeconomic communities and countries? There is no better gift we can give to the next generation if not education. We live in a technological world today, polluted with social media and all sorts of transformation that can only transmit into other parts of our world through education. Without education, those in the poorer countries will not be able to access the quality and the true information they need to know what goes around them. They will not be able to contribute economically towards the development of their society. Therefore, I will end with this. Let us support education because it is the key to the future. If you educate a girl child, you are educating the world. If you educate a girl child, you are putting a foundation under the family that has little or no hope If you educate a girl child, you are providing the beauty of the society for a better future for all. I want to thank you, Gertrude, and the HerStory program for giving me this access to share a little of my life. I have multiple stories that I can share, but for now, I want to end here. Thank you for this opportunity, and let us continue to promote and educate the girl child. God bless you all.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Isaiah. Wow. Thank you, Isaiah. Wonderful presentation. The HerStory Circle believes that until we start bringing men into the rooms where we discuss women's issues, nothing much is going to change for the condition of women and children worldwide. So you are really an example of what we need to see in our men folk, knowing that education is the key that breaks the cycle of poverty. Please do not tire. Keep doing your work, knowing that we are supporting you 100% back on the continent and here in Australia, especially amongst our refugee youth who need to be empowered, who need to see role models and examples of what can be done when you have an education. So thank you so much for that. So now we're going to take a small break with a recorded video from one of our members in Germany. Gabriela is an amazing artist, a writer, and an architect. And at the HerStory Circle, we allow people to express their story in whatever way they feel most comfortable. You can come and dance, you can come and sing, you can paint a picture. And she opted to share her artwork with us today with music. So thank you so much, Gabriela. You're here with us in spirit. I know you're fast asleep in Berlin, but we are with you. Thank you for sharing yourself today. Fantastic. So now we're going to take a break, a tea break, and we will be back with you in a few minutes. Thank you all for being with us today.
How long do we
Yeah. Have you got your settings okay? Okay. Just let me put my right virtual background. Okay. Hello, everybody, and welcome back. This is Gertrude Mache. We are continuing with our lineup, and we now have our next speaker. Like I said with the previous speaker, the HerStory Circle supports both men and women to come onto this platform and to share their stories. So my next speaker is like a child to me, a young man who I met here in Melbourne, Australia. Jonasi is a young man who came all the way from Burundi. I was going to say Rwanda. From Burundi as a refugee and has built an amazing life here. He inspires youth to find their gifts, especially around sport and soccer. Thank you so much for honoring us with your presence today. The stage is yours.
No, thank you so much, everyone, and good morning, everyone. First and foremost, I would like to start off by doing a small acknowledgement, So I would like to take this time to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land on which we meet, and I would love to pay my respect to the elders past, present, and emerging. And as always, we acknowledge that this land that we work on is a land that does belong to the Indigenous and Torres Strait communities. And there's been a struggle, and it's always a pleasure when we can come and do work harmoniously on these lands, reminding us of the importance of harmony and acknowledging each other's cultures. So as Ms. Gertrude introduced, my name is Jonasi Ngano-Singebuye, and I am a young person who lives predominantly in the West, but I do a lot of traveling, so I find myself in many places in Victoria. And essentially what I do is, back in 2012, I was privileged enough to get involved or initiate an organization called Acts of Random Kindness Victoria. Now, Acts of Random Kindness Victoria is a very spontaneous organization. There was no planning in terms of where I never sat down to put anything on paper and initiate the organization. Instead, it was just a pure accident that's over time turned out to be quite a useful tool for the Western community of Melbourne, but also now across Victoria as well. In terms of what ARC is and what we do, we're an organization that does multiple services, predominantly working with young people, youth and young adults from the cult community, with a specific target group of the cult women. So we look after about 250 young women now who use our initiatives. So we have leadership programs, we have sport programs, and we have educational programs as well, all with the objective of empowering the next generation. Now, just a little bit about my background. In terms of occupation, I am in the health field and sport as well. So I do a bit of recreation, and also background was in terms of my studies. I finished my studies in medical sciences, and that was me combining the things that I loved, that I was doing, which is this community work, and also sciences or the medical field and the medical world. And when I completed my studies, I straight away try to find a way to take the two worlds together and merge them. And this is our today I operate in multiple spaces across the week, serving in a health sector, but also in the community as well. So in terms of exactly what I'm here to sort of speak on, because this is about stories, and I just wanted to speak on the significance and also the relevance of having groups like ARC and also groups like this the initiative today, HerStory, which captures the importance of hearing each other out and also seeing what's going on in and around us to empower each other. Now, the young people that I work with are an absolute blessing because I get to learn quite a lot from them, and I'm always quite eager to meet new people and new connections to see just how far we can grow each other. So recently, I started doing more educational-based programs, looking at how we can use education as a tool to better equip a lot of the youth and young adults. One of the troubles we have in the West is a lot of the young people don't have a lot of, I suppose, initiatives that allows them to fully explore who they are. And they're not given a lot of opportunities or platforms to really sow their wings and, I suppose, have the opportunity we have today to come and share their stories. And so what we've tried to do through education, we're trying to work with different groups. And one of the most recent groups that I've come across is a group called HWPL. And they have this wonderful initiative called Peace Education, which is a concept that I never really thought about in the past. But as somebody, as Ms. Gertrude mentioned, who's come from a refugee background, we are used to, I suppose, chaos. And I say, I'm like a stone flower. Now, what a stone flower is this flower that just manages to blossom out of chaos. It doesn't need a lot of sunlight. It doesn't need a lot of good things happening around it in terms of its soil, but it always finds a way to blossom and become a better version of itself. And so I try my very, very best to mimic that flower and also pass the love to others as well. And that's the whole point of ARC. How can we share the love with the young people so that they can also find these platforms to share their stories and also mature, grow, and find pathways that leads to them, becoming something of their desire. Yeah. So that's why when I was given this opportunity to share a little bit on behalf of ARC, on behalf of the young people, and also some of the initiatives that we're running in 2024, I came in with a passionate heart, knowing that I'm not just standing here on behalf of myself, but also on behalf of so many others as well who can't have the opportunity I have at the moment, but we're working on measures to make sure that they also get the platforms as well. So in terms of the work itself that we plan to do this year with these young people is, like I said, we're trying to take education as the key navigator for 2024 to see how we can upskill a lot of these young people in terms of public speaking, in terms of understanding their role, their value, and their influence in society. And these are topics that are coming straight out of this peace education that with this organization that I'm working with at the moment, 2024. And so if you guys in the audience have any young people that you think might benefit from some of the initiatives that we're running, please do connect with me. I would love to expand the horizon. Like I said, we're predominantly working with the college community at the moment in the western suburbs and a little bit in the southeast as well. But I would love to network further, see what resources we can share as well. I'm all about learning, collaborations, and so I welcome it. And if there's any groups that you think are important to maybe connect with as well, please do share any connections. And yeah, so that's predominantly what we do. It's a very, very, I suppose, overall overview of some of our works. But if there are any further details, I'm happy to take any questions about myself. So I don't like talking about myself. I like talking about the works that we're doing and the impact that they have on the communities that we serve as well. So I'm not sure if we're allowed to take any questions. If you guys have any questions for me as well, please feel free to ask any questions. Otherwise, yeah. Oh, yes.
So I'll start.
Yeah.
Can you share the story of how you started your initiative?
Absolutely. Absolutely. So it's a funny one. Like I said, it's very spontaneous. No plan whatsoever. I had no desire to be here in this sort of platforms. So back in 2012, I was just training in a local park back in Brimbank, St. Albans to be more specific. And I've set up a station of my training session, training for football, that is soccer. And during like maybe 20 or so minutes into the session, there were young people around, about 6 Southeast Asian boys who came to where I was training. And essentially, they started mimicking what I was doing, basically marking around my session. And I wasn't quite content with that. So I decided to, instead of shooing them off, because I knew they wanted to do something. Part of the reason why they were there was because they didn't have the platform to engage. So an idea came. So instead of kicking them out, I decided to split my session into 2 parts. So I took half of my station, I put it on the left side and the other half on the right side. And then I told them, you guys do exactly what I'm doing, but do it there. All right. Don't come where I am because I have to train at a certain intensity, all this kind of stuff. And so through this one act, these young people just decided to come every single time I was there. So they quickly worked out a pattern of when I was training there. So every Saturday morning at 9 a.m., I was there. And before long, they worked out it was a pattern. And so they started coming at exact same intervals, times that I was at this local park. And that's when the idea came, or maybe, again, this is an opportunity to share the love with these young people because they don't have it. And that's how it was born. It was one act of random kindness that sort of spontaneously grew into this group that we have today that I'm looking after. I think by 2012 summer, by 2014, there was over 150 young people filling up the parks in St. Albans in our initiatives. Predominantly sport back then, because that's our origin. And yeah, that's sort of how ARC was born. One act of random kindness spontaneously grew this organization.
Thank you.
So can you give an example of other projects that you do, and is it just with children or is it sort of across families?
Absolutely, wonderful question. Actually, it is across families. We believe that every single person has a role to play in society. Now, the reason why we work predominantly with children, women, and the youth, more children and women, is because we believe that the fabric of a family begins there. And also, if you want to create change, if you can capture it in a young person, then you can nurture it over. It's harder to change an adult, we believe, because a lot of the programs that we deliver, the sport ones are all about positive engagement, harmonious living, for example, and teaching or instilling the idea of value. Young one, in this society, this community, you have a very big role to play, and you can shape the very community that you live in just based on the decisions you make. You have a role to play, so that means you have an influence in this community. It can be a good one or bad one. And then also, of course, can we instill the concept of harmonious living, acceptance, for example. This person looks different, this person speaks differently. Can we still benefit from each other and learn from each other? And in terms of other projects, so we run a lot of leadership programs as well, all across Victoria. And an example of that is a couple years ago now, because after COVID, we haven't done too much, but we used to have a lot of initiatives from 2012 to 2019. We used to take a group of girls, girls that were part of our organization, out and would go do certain types of training. We would get keynote speakers to come in and deliver these workshops for them. And then had other initiatives that were a bit more family-based, where we had, for example, a movie night, which is a bit more on the family-oriented side of things. So parents, children would come in and they would experience that once or twice a month. And again, the whole objective was, can we create a family dynamic where everyone understands that they're valuable in that family and they're valuable in the community? Because the dilemma we have in the West is that everyone takes anyone's identity if they don't have an identity of their own. And so your words are very powerful because you can influence someone else. And so we say, instead of having that mindset, create your own image based on what you want to do, and then let it be a positive one so that you can create a future, or I suppose a society that you want to live in as well. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Janas. It's been
Absolutely.
wonderful to have you with us today. Thank you for your presentation.
Thank you so much again. A big pleasure being here this morning. Thank you so much.
Fantastic. Wow. Beautiful lineup of speakers this morning. Young men who are here in Victoria, changing society with their works. Janasi is a very good example of that. So our next speaker is a sister from another mother. When I first came to Melbourne, I met this amazing woman from New Zealand who is a filmmaker. And all of the films she focuses on have a purpose. She curates stories of voices that are normally not heard. Seema Summers, thank you for being here today. I'm really excited that we've reconnected. As a fellow Kiwi, the stage is yours. Thank you.
Thank you so much for inviting me here today. And I would also like to acknowledge the traditional owners of the land and the waterways in which we live and work on, and show our deepest respect for the elders, the past and the present, and those wonderful new leaders emerging today. So yes, I'm Seema Summers, and I'm a storyteller. So I'm going to start from a little bit further back from that. So throughout my long career in consulting, leading change initiatives, coaching, and then for many years as a radio journalist, I used storytelling as a tool of engagement. I soon realised that storytelling is one of the most powerful agents for transformation and capacity building. So this is what inspired me to establish my own company, a dynamic storytelling business called Impact Stories. During my years of studying for a master's degree in communication, I explored ways to present stories. And I now offer, as Gertrude says, filmmaking, commissioned book work, speaking, and business storytelling to clients. So 4 different options or ways to influence. I'm a published author, and so I've produced film and audio documentaries. A while back, I was approached by one of our local shires to produce an audio documentary for the Bunurong people, looking at the history, the past, what's happening in the present, and the aspirations for the future. I learned so much, and it was an amazing journey to go on. So out of that, there was 6 series, and started with one of the traditional elders in that language group, and her story weaves through many other interviews that I did in that program, and that aired on SBS radio and across Australia on local radio stations as well. What I found from that was really fascinating. So listeners were the feedback that I got coming to me saying, gee, I learned so much. And gosh, I had no idea about, their culture or the land that we're living on and what these things mean and why they had 6 seasons and not 4 and why they hunted at a certain time. And that land has memory. And there was so much learning from it. And what I learned from that, as well as these incredible, this array of knowledge, was that people found it easy to understand and to learn through story. It was a human thing. People can relate to another human telling their story. And out of that, there's a lot of history and a lot of culture and lifestyles that come with each person's story. So as a social scientist, I have researched human behaviour for over 20 years now. Us humans are pretty fascinating. And I've had a lifetime of lived experience to draw from as well. But it's the learning from those experiences that I believe is the key to our understanding. Today, I'm going to talk about diversity, inclusion, and belonging. And to do this, I'm going to use some of my work to demonstrate this. So I thought about this, and belonging is something that all humans aspire to. We all like to belong somewhere. And I remembered a time a few years back now where I led quite a big change initiative with a global organisation. It was an oil refinery, actually. Never thought I'd end up working in an oil refinery. And 250 of the employers had been notified that they were going to be made redundant. The organisation, it was a hard decision for them to make, but it was one that had to be made. So myself and a team of us went to help all of these people to transition into a new life. So this particular place was mainly men, blue-collar workers, and long-term employees. They'd been there for 15 to 30 years, knew each other really well. Christmas parties, families knew each other. It was a real community in this place, and I felt it as soon as I walked in. Everyone looked out for everybody. So here was a day, here I was on the refinery, and I'd gone through all the security and so on, and I was about to head into the operations room, which was like the brain of the whole refinery. Women never went in that room. It was a male environment, and these guys worked night shifts together. So first thing was, the only woman. Took a breath and thought, okay, I'm here to help these guys. Secondly, I lived in Melbourne, and I soon learned that in South Australia, where I was, there was a little bit of an annoyance that Melbourne had taken the Grand Prix from Adelaide. New to me, but I learned that. And I have come from New Zealand. I've lived in Melbourne for 24 years now. But, you know, it was picked up that I still had a slight Kiwi accent. And the All Blacks had just beaten Australia again in the rugby. So there was a few things kind of lurking around as I walked down the corridor towards this group of amazing guys, high caliber workers, but there was a lot of anger, a lot of angst. These guys were disillusioned. They were lost. They'd just been told that their whole lives were going to change. I used storytelling straight away. I wanted to understand their world. I wanted to understand about what they did. And through that, they talked about how they felt. A loss of job for anyone is it can be life-changing. They knew that they all had to face some changes about their jobs. They were no longer part of a known community. They didn't know where they belonged anymore. They didn't know if they could adapt to a new environment. I'm sure everyone listening will relate to these things. We've all been in these situations. They wondered if they would be welcomed and included into a different workplace. And did they believe in themselves and in their skills and capabilities? These guys felt vulnerable, and they struggled to accept their new circumstances. What I noticed was that these men, they went through a very slow process of grief, and they struggled to accept their situation. There was one guy there It took him 8 months to come to that acceptance. He couldn't tell his partner, his wife, or his adult kids that he'd been made redundant. He got dressed every morning and came into the refinery. We had a career centre set up just outside, so when they left, they could still come into the centre. And every day he came in, he sat there. His family had no idea about his isolation and about what he was going through. He just couldn't go there. There was another guy who was one of the managers there, big guy, had quite a presence, well respected by his colleagues, drove a big Harley motorbike, fought in the Vietnam War, couldn't go there. Until one day he actually came into the centre and everyone stopped and looked and said, "Hey, it's great to see you." And that was his time when he was ready to look at a future. It was very humbling to see these high caliber employees feel so vulnerable at that point in their lives. They all worked, and they all ended up with new employment, and some of them established their own businesses. The thing that I find interesting is that I did another project some months later, a similar situation, a manufacturing organisation. We're moving offshore and the production department was closing, and this time it was all women. The women were also vulnerable. They came from working class families, they needed to work. But the process adapting to that change was different. So not saying that one is better or one is worse, but just different. So for the men, it affected their whole identity. They were asking themselves, who am I now? Because the role that I've had is not there. And I don't know who I am or where I fit. Whereas women came through the process a lot quicker, and they were saying, what do we need to do now? So it's a very different way of seeing things. The next example I want to use is, I was recently commissioned by an Aboriginal organisation here in Victoria called Nurm Ma Jambana to be a ghostwriter. And this is the book here. It's called Telling, Stories of Resilience, published by Megabala Publishing. And these are incredible stories. So I interviewed 12 elders. These are life stories. So I told the stories in their voice, first person, as a ghostwriter. The book was published in November last year. Some of the elders I had already known, having worked with them for some time. But many of them, it was the first time they shared their stories. And I was very honoured to be in that position, that they trusted me to hold the space for them while they shared their stories. Some of them were forcibly removed from their families, the stolen generation. Some of their parents were also. So the parts of their stories that they shared were challenging. The stories involve a lot of things. There is some amazing experiences that they've had and shared. There's also their experience of loss and family separation, racism. They're all embedded in their memories. But above all, the unbroken spirit of resistance and resilience are a true testament to the strength of our Indigenous elders. Every single one of these courageous storytellers, they share their experiences, their vulnerabilities with such grace. They talked about their long journey to reconnect with their culture and to their families. Their resilience is incredibly inspiring. A lot of people have commented, and some of the reviews that I've seen on the book have talked about how much they've learned from the stories. There's so many things that have weaved through each person's story. And many have said what they had never understood before now. All of the storytellers have told me that they felt really empowered by sharing their stories, and many have said they felt liberated and healed because they had a voice and because they could share their life story. And this is the power of storytelling, and this is why I'm sharing this with you today. People listen because we're talking about another human being, and people will relate to different things in the story. But so many things are weaved through one person's life story. Stories bring understanding, wrapped in the wealth of human experience. And a collective understanding strengthens a sense of belonging and an acceptance of our differences in a diverse society. I believe that if we want humankind to survive and in fact strive, which we all want to do, we need to start telling new kinds of stories. Stories where the kinds of heroes use more powerful tools than violence. There's plenty of violence in the world. We don't need any more. And what we do positively for the good of all can inspire others to contribute also. My belief is true leadership is demonstrated by what we learn and how we act. I'm honoured to have been trusted to work with such incredible people. And I will continue to work with story as a way to inspire and inform our future. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Sina. Any questions before we let you go? Yes, and talk a little bit loud so that the camera can pick up.
I feel like some divine interventions happen because the storytelling that we want to do for future with the
Numa Jabana.
thank you. Growing Opportunities has now landed upon Marilyn Murdoch. I don't know if she's a part of your book, but she now runs the women's group in Frankston. And she's now partnering with us to potentially build a community garden there to host the yarning story. So this is more of a reflection than a question, but I just think, Gertrude, did you know about this connection?
I knew Sina is involved with a lot
There's always like, what is it, 3 degrees separation between us all.
Yeah, so I'm reading your book now as soon as I go home.
Fantastic. These stories are amazing, as are the people. And they've actually asked me to do a second book this year. So I'm working on that now to start it now.
And the other synchronicity is that because you're a filmmaker, I told you about the NGO Film Festival happening here in Melbourne. And Initiatives for Peace are also going to get involved. Sarah's been helping make that connection. So definitely something happened in this room. You two are supposed to meet today.
That's great.
And let's explore what can come out of that. Thank you.
Fantastic.
Any other questions for Sina before we let her go? Thank you so much.
Thank you so
Absolutely awesome. Okay, so before we break for lunch, we are now going to have our last speaker before lunchtime. An amazing woman who is part of Initiatives for Change. Sarah, thank you so much for coming. I know it took quite a bit for me to get you here today. It's an absolute honor to share you with our community. The work that you are doing, especially with First Nations people, is incredible. You come with a wealth of knowledge, and I'm really excited to introduce you to our community. Thank you, Sarah.
Yeah. for that beautiful introduction, Gertrude. I am slightly nervous and slightly underprepared. I've had quite a week, which I will share with you in a moment, but I do want to ground myself in place in our beautiful ballroom. But if we connect through the floorboards to the earth here, we'll realise that this place has been cared for millennia by the Wurundjeri community. I pay my respects to our traditional owners, including Uncle Shane, who is part of our Initiatives of Change setup and is our cultural advisor. He's Yorta Yorta, Wurundjeri and Bunwurrung, and we're very honoured to have him advise us culturally on all the work that we do, and we build bridges in the world's divides as a community. And in Australia, we're looking at the First Peoples pathway and how we build trust. And my role is a trust building project manager. And I just wanted to talk to you about my story as training as an architect and now being called a trust building project manager. And a lot of people say, oh, do you manage trusts or funds, or, you know, do I need to know you? And it's like, no, I actually try to manage something that's as ephemeral as trust. So to have that trust, I also want to acknowledge the people in the room that have just shared a metaphor for me, the stone flower. I really connected to your story when you mentioned that it's a flower that can grow without fertile soil and it will grow and it's really hardy. I really connect with that story, and part of my story is about transformative growth. So I was really inspired to also hear you, Sina, and how we all do full circle back to how we are all connected and why we're in this room today. So I've had a hard week. I've sat in hospital and I'm waiting for a scan, and I was reflecting, what do I speak about? I've got so many stories I can share. What is kind of deep in my heart that has sitting in the hospital with the sights and the smells and the sounds becomes quite a visceral experience. So I was looking at 3 areas that of my story that might connect, something that spoke to me when I was an 8-year-old, something that broke me as a mother, and something that woke me. So I'll go back nearly 40 years ago to when I was 8. I had the fortunate experience of working with a teacher who would teach us dreaming stories. As a child, I was really fascinated with how birds got their colour, and I wrote a story about the cockatoo, and in the dreaming story, the cockatoo was white and he wanted to be like all the other birds, painted like a rainbow. And he said, I'm going to show you all, I'm going to fly into a rainbow and I'm going to be painted like you. And the kookaburra laughed and the owl said, oh, don't be so silly, you're not going to be painted like all the other birds, you know, do your own thing. So he said, okay, I'm going to go up, and he flew so high, he burnt his crest on the sun. And that was my 8-year-old story of why cockatoos have a yellow crest. So here's a little story that was in the attic for so many years, buried. I've forgotten about it. The story that broke me connects to this story. I'm in hospital. I was an architect designing hospitals. I worked on the Royal Children's Hospital that's had numerous awards, very proud, running a team of 25 people. And suddenly, after that experience and won all the awards, I was that person on the other side of the design scheme, that poor mother that was living in hospital with a young child, a baby who had constant epilepsy every day. You know, he was potentially going to lose his life at any moment. So I spent 5 months in hospital, not knowing what was going on. I was living on adrenaline, the hospital smells, the sights, the senses all came back to me just the other day. So this story is still pretty raw. I spent 5 months, and it was a very sad time. At the end, no happy ending. It was my little baby James, who became the story of the cockatoo. He was living in the cockatoo ward of the Children's Hospital the nurses were calling him Baby James the cockatoo, was, you know, quite a beautiful story that gave us quite a lot of relief. We bought this beautiful painting for the nurses to say thank you for the care. And it was this quite graphic bird with its wings spread out like this. And during my time of bereavement, I had the opportunity to work on a healing garden with Indigenous community, and I am forever indebted by their sense of care. You know, I went in thinking I was helping them, but really they were looking at me saying, no, we've got a lot to offer you. And I, you know, out of all the pastoral care that we did in hospital, I really believe what comes from the earth goes back to the earth. And then in Aboriginal spirit, they go back up to the sky. So that was something that resonated with me. So I followed that gut instinct. And to come back to what happened with this painting, we actually had a print. I wanted to keep one at home, and we put the original in the hospital. And only a month after the tragedy, when he actually passed away, I discovered that I was pregnant again with our third son. I had a first son who was only 3 at the time when we were in hospital. And William was born with a beautiful birthmark on his back, and it was the imprint of the cockatoo. And I can show you still now that you'll look at him and go, that's a really unusual birthmark, but it was the cockatoo spread on his back. And everyone that sees it goes, oh, okay, you're not crazy. Actually, there is some kind of imprint that happened, and I really don't know how to explain it, but when I was working on a healing garden with Aboriginal community at Monash Health, you know, that story was like, yeah, that happens. You know, there's that magic that can happen in your life when you open your eyes to this type of experience. And it was an urban hospital, and they said, if you really want to learn healing, go to the East Kimberley and learn from traditional healers what transference of magic can happen in the desert with very traditional people that have only known kind of white culture since 1967. So some of these older ladies had lived a very traditional life. I had the magical experience of sitting in circle with them every day for 10 days, and with my mother, who was 72, and we were being initiated like 12-year-old girls. And I was given a skin name. Napangadi is my skin name, and it was a beautiful, kind of almost an adoption of, you've had a hard time, let us help you. I had some form of healing, Reiki, given to me while I was on a bed of hair that was plaited with henna, and you would kind of not feel much about the experience, but you'd get up and suddenly there was an imprint of the my wounding, and that was on my womb. So, you know, I was accepting that my story is now visible, that, you know, here is my core wounding, and here is a story that I can share that is not just my own, but many women also experience a club that they never want to be in, which is a bereavement club. So I, you know, am a member of this untalked about club in society. I also experienced sorry business with Aboriginal women when I was in the desert. And it was so profound that we were in circle and the inner core people were wailing. And then there was an outer core and an outer core. And I was on the third concentric circle. And I found myself at first faking the tears, saying, yeah, this is really sad that an elder's lost her cousin, her nephew. And then once it started hitting me that this is, sorry business is actually, it's a very beautiful grieving ritual. So everybody is actually sorry for all the memories that they're burdening their body with. And it is this beautiful sense of relief. So I, you know, came back to Australia and thought, how can we have any type of experience like this where it is possible to grieve together, to share vulnerable stories. And I found myself in this place. I was working on buildings when I went back to architecture after this experience, and I just felt like I was bringing half of myself to work. I didn't, I was asked to look at aged care, which I loved, but it was very much, how do I just sit in story for longer to actually be part of my healing that can help other people's healing? So sitting in circle, sharing our kind of bravest and our darkest and our deepest stories is what I've been doing for the last 3.5 years in this room with 50 very beautiful, brave people led by First Nations people. So often we'll have a theme like authentic leadership, and we'll, share stories. What does authentic leadership mean to you? And then, we'd break out into more of a masterclass situation, and we'll share kind of more intimate stories with each other and build a network through that. So over the last 3 years, we've had about 3,400 registrations. We've had 82 forums. We've engaged with 25 First Nation leaders. So there is a lot of knowledge that has happened over the last few years. So I've been always sharing, holding other people's stories. So when Gertrude invited me to look at my own story, I was really honoured to go back to, what is my heart telling me that I need to share? And the Cockatoo James story keeps coming back. So to come back to where we are now with Tarek, is that we are creating a forgiveness circle on the 23rd of March, Saturday. So the same 50 people set up. Uncle Shane will give us a welcome, a smoking ceremony, and we've been approached by an Indigenous Hawaiian man, Kawika Foster, who has 51 generations of Indigenous knowledge that's been gifted to him. And he has the Ho'oponopono practice, which is the art of forgiveness and making wrong right. And he is doing a beautiful ceremonial exchange with First Nations leaders here with his knowledge. So that requires the conch shell playing, the smoking ceremony. Then we'll come in here and we'll have a global Indigenous and intercultural dialogue about what does forgiveness mean to you, and particularly in this time of post-referendum Australia, when Australia voted no in a referendum. What does that mean? How do we move forward? And part of the task ahead is not necessarily a government apology. It's not necessarily, the Aboriginal people only in their own sorry business, but forgiveness is something, it's a tool that we all can use. And I've had friends ring up and say, oh, I'm feeling really bad about my leaving my wife, and should I come to the circle? It's like, yes, exactly. First Nations people are very generous and they will hold you in that space. If you need to share that story, this is kind of yours to share. So, forgiveness is a very human element that actually can help us move forward. So I have probably gone over my 15 minutes. David, thank you for coming. The first time I spoke in this place, I had a beautiful question from David, and I think I went like 20 minutes over my speaking time, and it's like,
Thank you.
Thank you. I really appreciate being able to share what's on my heart, because it's actually quite heavy. So.
Thank you, Sarah.
Thank you.
It's a real honor that you were able to share in this space. In Zimbabwe, we believe that a story shared is a problem halved. That the minute you tell someone else what you're going through, it's not yours to carry alone anymore.
Thank you.
So we carry it with you.
Thank you.
And just take it day by day. Don't think too far ahead.
Yeah.
You're in the right place, right country, right resources. And we love you for sharing with us today. I don't know if there's any questions for Sarah before we let her go. Comments?
I just wanted to say, similar, Gertrude, just one step at a time has been my philosophy. I also lost a child, so I can really connect on that level with you. I guess what I wanted to say with that is that being vulnerable and also courageous, they're twins And that's what I see in you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. No, I
I'd like to
was.
say thank you. I'd like to say thank you, that's all.
Oh, thank you. No, I
really
really
appreciated that story.
Thank you.
Very heartfelt.
Yeah, no, I'm already feeling
A bit lighter. Yeah.
Thank
you, Sarah. Wow, so we are going to break for lunch. In fact, this is it for today. I just want to thank everybody who's tuned in online. I want to thank all of our speakers for today for opening the HerStory Summit 2024. Stories are powerful. Stories are healing. We tell stories to uplift, inspire, and energize. So come back again tomorrow. We'll have another lineup of amazing guests right here at Initiatives for Change in Toorak in Melbourne. Absolutely amazing venue for us to have our first event in Melbourne. So thank you, all of you who are tuning in online. I will respond to all of your comments and questions. I've been seeing the comments coming through Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube. Really appreciate you being with us today. Bye for now, everybody, and thank you.